Pastel Accounting topic webinar. Today's topic is email issues that you may experience within Sage Pastel Accounting. My name is Joanne Barnard and I will be your host for this session. And today our presenter is Nancy Machaba, who's going to take you through all of the steps and the information regarding emailing from Pastel. Nancy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Joanne, and welcome everybody. And I hope you enjoy the session. Feel free to ask questions and add any more input. If you miss anything and you know about it, feel free to add it into the chat. Everybody will benefit from that. Now I'm going to try and share my screen now. And Joanne, can you just confirm once you can see my screen?
Nancy, I can see your screen. We're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So we're going to start off with the basics. It's the setups of how you can email from Pastel. So it's your statements, your reports, whatever the case may be, you want to try and email that from Pastel. But most of the times, if it's not set up correctly, you might get an error. Okay, so before we get to the errors, we must just confirm the programs that you can use to email once you set up your emailing. So it's your Microsoft Office 2007, 2010, 2013, 2016, your 365 works, but your Office 365 online does not work, your Open Office does not work, and your Mozilla Thunderbird does not work with the emailing on Pastel. So if you do need a list of those programs that allows you to email, maybe you can just pop an email and then request for that compatibility list of programs that you can email with on Pastel. So just take note of that. That is the first thing you need to check. So what we are talking about, I'm just going to show you an error. I couldn't recreate it here, although you might get another error that's similar to that, but the solution is still the same. So the error that I'm referring to is this error. I'm going to just snip it and put it on this screen. So this is the error that you probably get when you're trying to email from Pastel. So it says either there is no default email client or the current mail client cannot fulfill the messaging request. Please run Microsoft Outlook and set it as a default mail client. So if you've received this error before while trying to email from Pastel, this is what we're talking about today. There are quite a number of email errors that you get. We'll get to them shortly, but this is the main one. If you do get this, then this is how you troubleshoot it. We're going to go through it step by step. So back to basics. The first thing you need to check when you get that email error is obviously your settings. So most of the times you're emailing statements to customers or your supply remittance, and then you get that error. So you're going to edit customer accounts. You need to check if your accounts are set up for emailing. If it's not set up correctly, then that's the first screen you need to go to make sure that everything is fine. So in your edit customer accounts, make sure on your details tab, you've got an email address right at the bottom where it says email. Make sure you've got an email address there and it's spelled properly and you've got full stops where you need to have full stops. If it's incorrect, later on we will discuss what error you can get if you've got your email address entered there incorrectly. And then on the processing tab, you also need to make sure that on your documents and statements, you've got an email address set up there. So make sure there is an email address and it is correct. If you need to have multiple email addresses, then you can just separate that with a semicolon, okay? Separate that with a semicolon and then enter the next email address that you would want the statement or the document to be emailed to. And in the statements tab as well, make sure that your settings on the drop-down list are actually set to email. So if you want to print and email, then you select it as such. If you just want to email, then you do so. And if you just want to print, you can also change that setting accordingly. But just make sure that each time you need to email, the setting is properly selected. Okay, so those are the settings, and then you do the same on your documents, email address, and make sure it's set to print an email or just email document, whatever the case may be. And then don't forget to save those settings. Otherwise, you could have gone through the whole process, forgotten to save it, and then you try to email, it's not emailing, but you're so sure you're making changes, and you could have just forgotten to save the changes. So that's it on your customers. You do the same on your suppliers. Your supplier screen is a little bit different from your customer screen. So you go into that screen, and in here, what's important is the email address is only entered on the details tab. So right at the bottom, you only enter the email address there. And then on your processing tab, when you go to your printing methods, right at the bottom right-hand corner, then you can choose the option to print an email or just email according to what you need to do with the supplier documents or the remittance documents. So that's where you do the supply settings. Again, don't forget to save the changes. So that's it with your settings on your customers and your suppliers. What is also important is when you're getting the error, you need to determine if the error comes up only when you're trying to email your customers or supplier documents, or it also happens when you try and email your reports, because remember, your reports are not linked to your customers and your suppliers. You actually need to enter in an email address. So when you go into view, for example, general ledger, financial reports, trial balance. So instead of printing it to screen or whatever the case may be, if you select email and when you click OK and you get that message coming up again, then the problem is actually not with your customer setups, because then your trial balance or any reports that you run, they are actually not linked to your customer accounts, especially your financial reports. So if you're getting an error, the same error when you're trying to run your reports, then the problem is not with the setups of your customer accounts. There's more to it. We'll get into the details of that soon. And what you also need to determine when you get that error is it also happening on any other company besides the company that you're in? And the quickest way to check this is maybe opening up the demo company. When you go into your demo company, enter your email address on a customer or a supplier and just try to email something from there. If you do get an error there, then the problem is not on a specific company. This is Pastel as a whole. So you will get to hear what else you can do in that scenario. But if you're not getting an error on the demo company and you're only getting it on a specific company, then your troubleshooting should only be focused on that specific company, because the problem is within that company. Okay, so those are the basics of troubleshooting that error. So mostly when you do get that email error, Pastel creates a log file of all the errors that happened when you try to email. So if you go into your company folders in the Pastel directory, in that specific company folder, you will then need to open it and then find a file that says email error log. Okay, so this file is not always there. It's only created when you get an error while you're trying to email from Pastel. So you can open the file. It always opens up in a text format. And you can scroll through the errors. The good thing about the error log, it tells you when it happened, the date and time, the user as well, and then it gives you details of the error. So we're just going to take the first one. For example, it says Outlook does not recognize one or more names, and then it gives you an error number -21474672559. So because this error log is out of Pastel, if you're not sure what the error means, the best way to do this is just copy this, go onto Google and check what the error is actually referring to. Most of the times it might tell you something about Outlook itself, a setting that you need to change on Windows, and that should then allow you to carry on email once you resolve that issue. So again, if you're not sure what the error means, you can Google it. It will give you details of what you need to fix with regards to your emailing. So most people have never checked this file, but we always encourage you to go back to the error log. It will give you a head start of what you need to change and how you can do it. So once again, this file is only in your company folder of the company that you got an error on. Okay, so this is part one of troubleshooting. The next step, if you've checked the error log, you've done what the error log is asking you to do, you fix that, but when you email from Pastel, you're still getting an error. The next step is for you to check if you actually have Microsoft Office installed on your machine, because most of the times people are so used to working into Pastel, they don't check if they have the right programs that allows them to email from Pastel. So you can navigate to your control panel. And then in your control panel, you go into your programs and features. And you just make sure that you've got MS Office installed. Let me just check through mine and you can see what mine looks like. So there is my Office there. It needs to show in here. If it's not showing in your programs and features, then you do not have a desktop application of MS Office. You probably have an online version of it. Okay, so once you check that you've got the program installed and it is there, then to repair it. Okay, so you make sure that your Pastel is closed. You don't have any other program that's open, including any Office program. Make sure everything is closed, and the only thing that you should have open is your control panel where your programs and features are. So you just click on the button you want to change, and then you select the option to repair. Now, be very careful with this, because if you're not so familiar with running repairs on Windows or any Windows programs, and you've never done it before, and you really feel uneasy doing it, then this is the part where you probably need to get your IT technician. They will know what's the best option here, and depending on your user rights as well, you might not even have the option to repair. Okay, so it's best to get the IT technician to help you then do a repair of Office. So they can choose to do a quick repair or an online repair. Online repair is much more detailed than a quick repair, but in any case, you need to come here to do a repair of your Office. Okay, and as soon as this is done, you can then close it and make sure that you restart your machine so that any other changes that have been done during the repair could be effected. Okay, so that's it with your Office. The next thing you need to do is also repair your Pastel, because remember, there should be an integration between your Pastel and your Office. So if you do something like a repair or reinstallation of Office, you also need to repair Pastel so that there's an integration between the programs. I'm sure by now you already know how to run a repair on Pastel. We've done it a couple of times throughout these webinars, so you should now have a little bit of a knowledge on how to run a repair on Pastel. I'm not going to repair any of my programs. Yeah, I will be in trouble. So I'm not going to be repairing. I'll just tell you exactly what you need to do. First of all, you go into your Pastel directory. Make sure Pastel is closed and nothing is open that's Pastel related. You then go into your C drive, search for the Pastel directory, and then go to rename, and you just add a .old at the end. .old, and you press enter. So it should rename the folder. Once that is done, you can launch your Pastel again. When you launch your Pastel, it's going to come up with a message that says Pastel is preparing to configure, and then it should carry on with the process. You don't have to do much. And then once it's done, it will tell you that it's completed. It might ask you to restart your machine. If not, don't worry, you can just restart your machine in any case. That should be the repair of your Pastel, okay? And once that is done, you go back into your Pastel, check if you can email again, because you're trying to get Outlook to integrate with Pastel to email. If it's still complaining about emailing, then that integration is not happening. If the repair on Office, the repair on Pastel still doesn't solve your problem, then the next step is to uninstall Office and uninstall Pastel. When you uninstall those programs, the first one that you will start reinstalling will be your Microsoft Office. That's the first one you will reinstall before you install your Pastel program. Okay, so once again, you need to uninstall, do it from the control panel. Don't do it in any other way, because I know there's always so many methods to do things on Windows. But when it comes to uninstalling a program, always do it from the control panel under your programs and features. And you can just click on Office and you uninstall. Again, don't do this if you're not familiar with working with Microsoft programs. Rather get your IT technician to do this part for you, as they will understand how to do the setup and reinstall it again. Once again, I think I did speak about the fact that if it's not showing in here, then it's an online version of your Microsoft Office. Online version does not integrate with Pastel. So if it's not here, then your first step is to get a desktop version of Microsoft Office, and most probably that will fix your email errors. Okay. That's it with uninstalling and reinstalling. The next step is for you, if you've got all of this set up, it's all fine, you've uninstalled, you've done everything, you've got the correct versions, it's all good. The next step will be to set a default program. So setting a default email program is where you're telling the system, okay, fine, I've got so many emailing programs on my machine, but this is a specific one I need you to use when you're emailing anything. So you go into your default programs. Once again, this is on your control panel. And then in your default programs, you should have an option that says default programs. And remember, on your Windows 7 and any other versions going back, this setting might be slightly different from what you've got on a Windows 10 machine. But if you go into default programs, you will find it. It's definitely there. You've got that setting. And then on your set your default programs, when you click on it, it will take you to your default applications. Under your email, if Outlook is not set as a default email, you need to click on it and then you choose your default email program. Okay, so in this case, I'll keep Outlook as such because that's the one I use for emailing. So don't try and use any other email program that's not on the list of programs that I gave you earlier on. Otherwise, it's not going to integrate with your Pastel. So default programs, Outlook should be set there. Once it's set, you can close that screen. And that's it for setting your default programs. Again, if you've got any other versions, it might ask you to go into your control panel under your default programs. And when you click on set default programs, it might come up with a table where it's asking you what options do you want to set default programs for. So it might not look like the one I just showed you now. It's slightly different, but yeah, you will definitely find your way into setting a default program there. Default program is set. Next up is also to make sure that you've got your user account control settings turned off, because what it does is each time you then try and email, if it's asking you, do you want to allow, or do you want to allow this program to make changes to your machine, each time you have to click yes, or sometimes it doesn't even pop up that message. It automatically just blocks any program that's trying to run on your machine. So that's where you change it. You go into your user accounts on your control panel, and then you go into your change user account control settings. Make sure that this bar is right at the bottom where it says never notify. If it's slightly above that, in the middle or right at the top, no, you are going to struggle with your emailing. So make sure it's right at the bottom. You click OK to apply the changes, and then just go back in there again to make sure that it stays right at the bottom. If you don't have admin rights on your machine, or you are a restricted user on Windows, you find that sometimes you can change this. It was sitting right in the middle, you drag it right to the bottom, you click OK, you go back in there, it's right back where it was before. So that's also a problem. You then need to make sure that you've got access to change the setting and that it stays there without reverting back to its original state. So make sure that's off. And once that is off, you can also try emailing again at this point in time. If you still struggle, then there's more you can do. If you're still getting the error, there's more that you can do. So the next step is checking that you've got the latest version of the new mail file. Okay, so this file controls the emailing in your Pastel. You find this file when you go into your C drive in your Windows Explorer. So C drive, and then you go into your program files x86, depending on what machine you've got, program files x86, and then you go into your common files, Sage Pastel. If you've got an older version of Pastel, you might still need to go into Softline Pastel, but for any newer versions of Pastel, then you go into your Sage Pastel folder. In there, you then need to look for a file that says new mail. So it says newmail.dll. The latest version of this file should be 2.0.0.17. So if you're taking down notes, it's 2.0.0.17. You can hover over the file. It will give you the file version right there. It says file version 2.0.0.17. Or if you hover there and it's not showing, you can just right click and then go into your properties. And then in your details tab, it will give you the file version as well. So make sure it's that version. If it's any other version besides the one that you're seeing right now, then you do have an older version of the file, so you need to get rid of it. So what you do, you can just click on the file, you delete it from this directory, and once it's deleted, you go into your Pastel icon, run Pastel. When you try and run Pastel, it will come up with a screen that's saying it's going to configure Pastel. Okay, so I'm not going to remove some of these files. Reason being, I've got so many versions of Pastel, so just playing with one of them could cause me troubles. But on your side, if you are then going to be doing this, delete the file from the directory. And then when you open Pastel again, after that, it will come up with a screen that it's configuring, and it will create a new file for you, which would be the latest version of the new mail file. Okay, you've got that. Delete the file, open Pastel, it will configure itself and it will create a new mail file for you. And when you do that, just confirm that the one that's been created is the version that we've been talking about, the latest version 2.0.0.17. So once that version is installed, you also need to register that file. So registering that file means that you are telling the system, this is now the correct one. Can I register it on the system so that it's integrated with my Pastel, and it will read anything that I try to email within Pastel and integrate that with my Office. Okay, so first things first, you need to do this in your CMD. Once again, if you're not a user that's got full admin rights, you could be struggling just trying to get into the CMD. Okay, so make sure you are a full admin user and you don't have any specific restrictions. Otherwise, then your IT tech will have to do this for you. Now, CMD, you can just search for it on Windows. You right click on it and make sure you click the option to run as administrator. Okay, so it will open up the CMD screen and leave that open, and then you're going to go into your run screen. So Windows run. Now, right where it says open, you're going to type in there REGSVR32. REGSVR32 if you are taking notes. And then back into the folder where we have the new mail file, you are then going to drag the new mail file and drop it next to the REGSVR32 on your Windows run. So drag and drop it there to give you the path of where the new mail file is sitting. You can then copy everything in the run screen. So copy, Control-C, right-click, copy, whatever the case. Then you go into your CMD and you just paste that. And on your keyboard, you enter. Once you do that, it should come up with a message that says the file has been registered successfully. So it should say succeeded, okay? If you do not run this as an administrator, or if you don't run CMD as an administrator, or you don't have the rights, it will come up with a different error. We'll see if I can recreate it for you, but at least you then know what's the problem. So this time I just opened CMD without running it as an administrator. Hopefully it recreates the error that I want you to see. So I went in there, I copied. Now I get an error. So this is what I wanted you to see. So if you don't run the command prompt as an administrator, chances are you will get an error, and this is the error that comes up. Then you just know if you've done it the first time and it comes up with an error, then just remember that you need to run your command prompt as an administrator. If you still run it as an administrator and it's complaining, then rather get your IT technician to do it for you. You probably have restrictions set up on your username. Okay, so that's it with your new mail file. Replace it, delete it in the folder, open Pastel, it creates a new one. Once a new one is created, register that on Windows so that there is a connection between all the programs that you're going to try and email from. Okay, so that's it with a new mail. It's now registered. That should then be the correct version of the new mail. You then go back into your Pastel, try and email, and you should be able to email. Otherwise, if you still have problems, then there's more you can do. So you can see this is quite an extensive troubleshooting step for the emailing issue, because of the fact that there's so much that you need to set up for the system to be able to email properly for you. If there's any steps that you miss, you probably have to go through the whole thing again and make sure that you've done it properly, you've saved it properly, you've repaired properly. Otherwise, the error will persist. So the next thing you can do is check if your Outlook and your Pastel are set up to run as an administrator. With your Pastel, you can just go into your Pastel directory or on the desktop, wherever you can find the Pastel icon. In this case, we can go to the C drive, Pastel 19, and the Pastel icon. So right there, you right click and go into your properties. And you can go to compatibility and make sure the option that says run this program as an administrator is ticked. You tick that option, you apply the changes, you click on OK. So as soon as you allow Pastel to run as an administrator, you will need to do exactly the same thing for Outlook. Okay, so remember that part. If you run Pastel as an administrator, you need to set the same settings for your Outlook program. So make sure you apply and it applies those changes for your program. Next thing, you do the same for your Outlook. While you are doing all those changes, make sure that the applications are actually closed while you're making the changes. So for Outlook, you search for it on Windows, and you can just select to open file location. It will take you where the Outlook folder is saved. And then you can just right click on it. And you go to properties. And in here, it's a little bit different. There's no compatibility tab. You can just go to the advanced tab. So you click on advanced, and then you click on the option that says run as administrator. Run as administrator, click OK, and that setting should be perfect. If you are doing this on your server machine, then you're good to go. If you are doing this on a workstation machine because you've made these changes to run Pastel as an administrator and Outlook as an administrator, you might lose your mapped drive on your workstation. So the following settings that we're going to do, you will only do on the workstation if you have lost the map drive simply because you've set Pastel to run as an administrator. Okay, so you make sure that everything is closed. Once again, Pastel is closed. Hopefully I don't struggle to get mine open. And you go into your Windows run again. So quickest way to get it, you can press the Windows key on your keyboard and the letter R. And then it opens up, and make sure you type in the regedit. Regedit, you click on OK. So what we are doing is going into the registry editor and trying to change the keys there so that you can be able to get your map drive back on the workstation. Because I tried to do this earlier on, I'm already in the key that I want to be in. So the key, most of those, you probably, if you need more details on these keys, you can email Joanne again, once again, only for this webinar, and she'll be able to send you most of the things that we've been talking about. But normally when you go into your registry editor, it looks like this. There's no keys that has been expanded or anything. It's just like this. That's if you haven't been playing in there. But if you play much in your registry editor, it might be all over the show. There's keys that are open and there's so many things that are open, but it's always good to keep it like this. Then you know which key that you're going to go into and edit. So the key that we need to go into is your HKey local machine, which is that one. I'm not going to open each individual key simply because it might take a while just to get to the specific key. So I'm just going to paste the one that I need there and press enter. But all you need to remember is you're going to HKey local machine under software, Microsoft Windows, current version, policies, and then under system. Now, when you get into system, on your right-hand side where you've got all the other keys, all you need to do is right-click somewhere where it's blank, click on new, and then you click on DWORD 32-bit value. Okay, so it creates a value right at the bottom there. And in our case, we're going to change that name to something else because it just says it's a new value. So you right-click that and rename, take out whatever is there, and type in the enable linked connections. Enable linked connections is the key. Once you create it and save it, you still need to modify the values for that key. So you right-click on it, you go to modify, and the value is set to 0 right now, so you just change that to 1, okay? And make sure it's set to, the base should be set to hexadecimal by default. If it's not set to that by default and it's set to decimal, just change that to hexadecimal, and then you can click on OK. Then you close everything. That's all you need to do in this key, because remember, you are trying to fix the fact that the map drive has disappeared on the workstation after you've set Pastel to run as an administrator. So if you do this, this will then allow the map drive to get back on the workstation. As soon as you're done doing this on the workstation, you close this, restart your machine, and once it's back up again, you should be able to see your Pastel map drives again. Okay, so that's it with that. Hopefully you're following along. If you are lost, feel free to just pop in a chat. Joanne will be helping you on that. So the next steps, after we've set Pastel and Outlook to run as an administrator and you're still struggling, you're still getting an email error, what you can then do is check what is the antivirus that you've got. Usually you might see your antivirus right to the bottom where your services are running. you can turn off your antivirus completely, and then you can also turn off your Windows firewall. As soon as you turn off these programs and you are able to email from Pastel, then that means the antivirus or the firewall was blocking that process within Pastel. As soon as you try to email, those programs are blocking that access. So in this case, that's where you need to get an IT technician again. If you are able to email after turning off the antivirus, then you need to get the IT technician to set up exceptions for you so that there's no block that's happening each time you try and email from Pastel. Okay, so you find that most of the things that requires an IT technician, so you phone into the call center and they tell you, okay, you can't email, we've done most of the things. What's left is for the IT technician to do this. And you'll find they will insist that you get an IT technician because most of those things that require an IT technician, they can't really do with you on the phone. So you'll find that's why they will insist that you get an IT technician, and then they will be able to make the necessary changes for you. And then the next step that you can actually do to ensure that Outlook is actually connecting with Pastel is setting up keys, your Microsoft Outlook keys, and making sure that they are available in the registry editor. So we were in the registry editor right now. We will go back in there again. Again, Windows key and the letter R, or just search for run, and then you type in regedit. And then we go back into the registry editor again. So in here, we're looking for keys that control the Outlook program. We need to see if these keys are available for us to be able to email from Pastel. Otherwise, if the keys are not there, that could be another reason why we're not able to email from Pastel. So we're editing those keys. I won't be effecting these changes on my side. I'm just showing you where you can find these keys, but I'll probably not be able to change most of it, okay? So once again, I'm not gonna go through each key individually. I'm just copying and pasting this so we save us some time and we can have plenty to go through some questions later. Okay, now I don't know why I can't go in. Okay, I'll probably have to go into it individually. So where we're going is into HK local machine. Under HK local machine, we go into software, we go into clients, then under clients, we go on to email. So on that key, you right click that key and you will export the key. So this is the current key that you've got for your Outlook. So I'm just gonna save that on my desktop. We can call it, just wanna save some name that will be easy for me to find. Okay. Outlook keys. You can just call it anything that will be easy for you to find. So we save that on the desktop. And once that is done, we then go close this key because we're done with this. All we needed from here was exporting that specific key. We close that key and then we go to H key current user. Remember, we're in local machine. Now we're going to your current user software, and it's almost the same name, but slightly different. So H key current user, software clients, and mail. Now with that one, we're going to copy the key. So we copy the key name. Some things I won't be able to do because I've got restrictions on what I can do in the registry editor, but yes. So you go into there, you copy the key name. Now we need to go to where we saved the one key that we exported. I think we saved it on the desktop. Outlook key. Then we can open that if it opens. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted you to see. If you've got restrictions, you'll probably not be able to open it and do any editing in there. Okay, I just want to see if I can. Okay, okay, there we go. Right. So to open the key, you can just right click on it you edit. Now we're going to replace the keys in here with specific keys that allows us to connect our Outlook for enabling us to be able to email within Pastel. So the keys could be wrong, so that's why we are trying to replace them. Okay, so we go to find, and we're going to replace that key. The first one that we exported, you find that key, you just paste the path there. You click on find. Okay, mine is complaining that it can't find the key. Not sure why it's not allowing me to, but in your case, you would find the key. Once you find it, you replace it with a key that was in your HKey current user, the one that we renamed. So remember, there were two keys, the one that we exported and then the one that we copied a name of. So the one that you copied a name of, this is the one that you would need to then replace it with. So you find, once you find it, you should have the option to then replace that key. Okay, so you're finding and replacing it. Again, this is a registry editor. If you're not comfortable doing it, you can then get your IT technician to actually replace those keys for you. As soon as that is done, remember to then save the settings in those keys. You save it, you close that. And then the next step will be going back into your registry editor. Where's my registry editor? There we go. Registry editor. We're still in the current user. You find that there's a setting, because it didn't allow me to change this, I don't have an option to modify. But once you've saved the text document and done all the necessary changes, when you come back to your registry editor and you go to the same key, when you right click on it, it should give you the option to then modify. And when you click on modify, it should give you the word or the value that says Microsoft Outlook. If it doesn't say Microsoft Outlook and it's blank or it's got some funny name there, all you need to do is rename that and change the name to Microsoft Outlook. Then you click on OK, and that was the last step of troubleshooting your email problems. So the last step is quite a bit of details. And again, this is where I recommend that you really get an IT technician to do those keys for you, because once you play with your keys and you've done something incorrectly, you might end up with more problems than you had before. So make sure when you're doing it, you're comfortable with it. Otherwise, get someone who's experienced in working with the registry keys. So that was the last bit of it. So when you then go back into Pastel, you should be able to email. We've done the extensive troubleshooting of emailing issues on Pastel. I did say earlier on, you could get quite a few emailing issues. This is the most basic one, the most basic email error that you could get. So that's why we extended very much on it. But you could get a slightly different error message when you're trying to email, but the concept is still the same. Troubleshoot it exactly the same way we did now. There's one I need to show you now. If my Pastel can open. There we go. So the one I need to show you is a really quick fix to an email program, because that's quite a standard error that everybody gets, and they call into the support team and they spend some time trying to get help on this, and yet you could have fixed it really quickly for yourself. So I'm just going to go into the demo company, because I think that's where I managed to recreate it. Hopefully you can get to see this error and we can troubleshoot together. What's the password on this? I've changed so many times. Okay. So this one, we're just trying to email customer statements. Forgive me if the error doesn't pop up, but I'm so sure I managed to recreate it on this demo company. If you can see it, the better. So we're just gonna email the statement. And let's see if it will email There we go. I'm so glad the error popped up. So this is the other error. Remember the first one I showed you was something else. It was this one. Either there's no default email, but take note of the similarity in the wording. So this one, let me just move it here. So the one that we just got now is here with the yellow mark. Cannot send email, please check the email address and or your account settings. So this one is pretty straightforward. It's telling you the basic step to start with when you get an email error. So that when you click on OK, go into the account, because we're trying to email for customer account, I think it was BEC. Go into the customer account like we stayed from the beginning. Start with the customer accounts, make sure they're set up correctly. If they're wrong, you will start with an error. So customer BEC, you can see there's no email address. So email address is blank. Under your statements, email address is blank, email address is blank on your documents. So we got an error. So if we do change this, we change this, there's an email address, and we change that to email, and we save the changes. When you go back now and try and email the statement, we shouldn't get the error, because now we've done the right thing. We've set up everything according to how the system should be set up when you try and email. So we email as the customer file. It should pick up the email address that I've entered now. And there we go. It has the email now. So that error, it's slightly different to the original one that I showed you, but that is a more direct error. It's telling you where to go and make the changes. So if you do get that while you're trying to email a customer, go into your edit screen and just make sure you've got all the right details, you've got all the correct settings set up in there. Then there's also another email error. I'm just trying to see where did I manage to recreate that email error from. So this is pretty basic. The error that you got now was just basic. Then the next one is also the same troubleshooting, but it's worded slightly different, and you might struggle to find what's the problem. So if you go into your customers, monthly periodic statements, and you try and email, I think this was the company that I got that error. I'm selecting all the customers to email the statements to, because I'm not quite sure which one of those had an error. So we email. Okay, so this one comes up with a message to allow me. As soon as you see that, it's probably because there's an incorrect email address somewhere. Well, at least with mine, I know if it comes up with that allow message, there's an incorrect email address somewhere. So I'm just going to cancel and deny, because I want that error. There we go. So you could get this error while you're trying to email your statements or your documents. So runtime error 32026. It says not supported, but sometimes it might say runtime error 32026, invalid recipient. Okay, so when you click OK on that message, it's going to close you out of Pastel, but just go back into Pastel. And what you're going to do to find out, because now you've tried to email the whole customer master file, you're trying to email them their statements. You're not sure exactly which customer is popping up that error. So you just go back into your Pastel and you can export your customer listing report. Now on your customer listing report, export it to Excel, because now you want to find out in the email column which email address is showing wrong, or which has got an incorrect email address set up in there. I'm just going to go into my Pastel and try to email my listing report, or rather export my listing report. Okay, so we got that error, runtime error 32026. Okay, so I'm exporting my customers into Excel. It's all the customers, because remember when you try to email, we didn't specify a specific customer account. It was all of them. So that's why we're exporting all of them to Excel, so we can pick up if there is a specific account with an invalid email address. It is almost 99.99% of the time when you get that error, it's the email address. I know there's quite a few who said, but I've checked it, it's not there. It's everything is set up correctly. It's not an email address problem. 99.99% of the time, it's definitely an incorrect email address. So with this, I know which customer account has got an incorrect email address, but this is how you then go through it. You go through the listing report. It should give you details of all your customer accounts, and there is a column where you see the email addresses. Let me just expand this. So column D, that's where you find your email addresses for your listings on your customer accounts. When you scroll through it, you should find one that's got a funny email address or that's spelled wrong. So there is mine. This is the account with the wrong email address. So instead of the email address having a Nancy.Magaba, it's got a Nancy ;Magaba. That's a problem. That's why we can't email. And then you can also check which account this is. This is for account TT. That's the account with a problem. This is the email address with a problem. Okay, so make sure you check this. When you export your customer listing report, column D has the email address. Then you can check which one has got an invalid email address. You can then go back into your Pastel, leave the Excel sheet open, go into your edit customer account. It was customer account TTTT. I'm so bad with names. I can never have proper names for my customer accounts. They always have funny names. In any case, I do find them. So customer account TT, there's the email address spelled wrong or entered wrong. Take out the semicolon. We're going to put a full stop there. That's making more sense. And email address looks fine now. We save the changes. Close it. Now, when you try and email a customer statements to the whole master file now, it should email without any error. If we do get another error, hopefully by now you are able to troubleshoot and you can also tell me what's wrong with the emailing there. But I'm hoping we don't get an error. So email per customer file is all the customers. You just click OK, it's going to send to me. And everything has been emailed, no error at all. Okay, so that's it with your email errors. It's just the wording at times that might confuse you and you don't know where to start. Like with the last one that we just did, it just says runtime error 32026 not supported. But the fact that you are trying to email should help you then troubleshoot, because you know the error is only coming up when I'm trying to email. So there should be a problem with the email addresses on my master files. Then that's your first point of troubleshooting. Once you know where to go when you get an error, it should be easy to clear out the errors and allow you to carry on emailing. That's it with the email errors. I know Joanne was busy with a question box. Joanne, if there's anything I left out, please feel free to take over and carry on from there. Otherwise, if it's just questions, you can also carry on with the questions. And thank you so much, everybody. I really hope this was helpful and it really helped you to see where you can start from if you're getting email problems. And it's really not too much of a troubleshooting process if you know how to do the basics, know what to do with your basics. If that's set up correctly, you avoid so many errors. The fact that we had to go into the registry editor, that's the very deep end of the troubleshooting process. But most of the times when you get email errors, you don't even have to get to the registry editor. It's the basics that have been missed. If that's corrected, then the email errors are completed. So yes, I really hope this was helpful for you, and it can help you in future when you do get problems like this. Thank you so much. And over to you, Joanne.
Thanks so much, Nancy. So guys, very quickly, I'm just going to share my screen again. And guys, the reason for that is I just want to take you through to a couple of places so that you can see where you can get the steps about these specific steps that we spoke about. We do have a YouTube video as well on it, as well as in the Sage KB. Guys, remember again, just to select your product if you are in the KB, otherwise it's going to give you all of the titles that match everything for every product. And then basically you can either say emailing, email, cannot email, something that makes sense. I normally just put email because then everything comes up. But guys, if you go to the one called either there is no default mail client when emailing from Sage Pastel, this actually includes all the steps Nancy took you through. So these are all of the things that we will advise, and we advise that you start with the first steps and then work your way through all the way to the registry editor. As we said, the registry editor should technically be the last place that you go. And if you do not feel comfortable or you're not as computer literate as you would like to be, remember, playing in your registry editor, if you do the wrong thing, you can corrupt your entire Windows. So it's not something that should be taken lightly. And if you feel you need to go there and you're not very technically minded, you know, maybe you're more accounting minded, that's what you do. A lot of your financial managers and stuff. Guys, that's when you hand this over to your IT and go, hey, here's this document, please go through it, or please watch this video, see what they're saying, can you follow that? Now, guys, that being said, I did have someone come through where they're having a problem where when they email as per the customer file, it's sending the wrong statements to a customer. So it will send customer A statement to customer B. I did want to reply, but obviously there was a dip in your network and it now says that you've left. So I thought I'm just going to quickly deal with it here. You did send your data through and they actually did reply to you. What they replied is that we couldn't recreate. And I've spoken to Dev because I have seen this come through, but the problem is we can never recreate the issue. So although it may occur, we found that when we get the data on our side, we're not able to actually make that happen. And even on your data, the agent that looked at it wasn't able to recreate. So they did ask you a couple of things. Obviously, that email somehow didn't reach you. So in this instance, it's obviously something very specific to your data. My advice would be, please reach back to support and go, hey guys, I'm still having this problem. You know, a once-off thing and I really need your help, and they will then sit and try to troubleshoot with you, because when we use your data on our side and we emailed, it didn't occur. I do know that you are here, thank you, but unfortunately on the question feed. So guys, it's a bit frustrating on my side, so that's why I actually replied verbally to you, just so that you knew I wasn't ignoring you. On my side in the question feed, and you gave me details that are actually protected by POPIA, when it says left, I can only reply to all. I can't reply privately. And so I didn't want people to see some of the information you had sent me, to be honest, because it contained things that are protected by POPIA. That's why I'm replying verbally. But I do know that you are still here. Please reach back out to support and just say to them, look, you are still having the issue. It wasn't a once-off. They did test it on our side. I spoke to the person who tested and they said they really couldn't recreate at all. And they didn't have the problem. So please reach out so that we can deal with that with you, because it's probably a setting, possibly one of the ones Nancy went through, and we just need to sort that out. So it might require a remote session. So it's not your data and it shouldn't be occurring. Okay, so one of our BPs, who I know don't mind me mentioning his name, Johan May, very, very amazing business partner, guys, very good at what he does. He said that he actually had a very similar thing, and it was actually caused by Outlook issues. and they had to stop big batches and delete some of the mails when it started to happen. So it was Outlook itself that was causing the issue. It wasn't actually Pastel. And archiving may help. And I don't know, maybe if you'd like me to put you in touch with Johan, he can also maybe give you some tips and tricks around that. But he said it was definitely caused by Outlook, not Pastel, from his experience. Johan, thank you so much for that. Johan also gave us a really awesome tip. He said if you don't want to export the customer listing, you can also export the customer master file in Pastel, because that also gives you the email addresses, and you can check those columns as well. So they're also in their own columns, and then just import them back if you do see that the email addresses are wrong. So definitely you can try some of the things that we mentioned here. Guys, you can go and check this mail. You can check the YouTube video, youtube.com. So guys, I am now updating to YouTube weekly. So I am 4 webinars away from being up to date, because I actually started in the middle of the year converting these to YouTube videos. But you can go there. Sorry, it's telling me to upload because it always takes me to where I can. But what you're looking for, guys, is you're looking for Sage. Okay, it's taking me into the Studio Manager. Sorry, guys. Let me just see if I can get it to take me where I want it to, because I was obviously in there earlier. So it takes me to the back end of my channel. Guys, what you're looking for is you're looking for Sage Customer Support and Training. I do take you this way because if I send a link, it always starts playing the latest video. So I don't really link it. I just tell you how to get there. You're going to click on this one. You're then going to go into playlists. You're searching for Africa and Middle East. And then, guys, it's normally one click over is my list, but go to view full playlist. And then you can just search if you really want to for email, but I think it's around the middle. I know that we have 182 videos, and you might be like, I don't really feel like searching through 182. But if I can find it, here it is. How can I resolve emailing issues for Sage Pastel Accounting? So guys, basically, I'm going to put this in the chat. And guys, this is the video that you can also, if you're like, hey, I don't feel like reading a whole bunch of steps, you can come watch the video. The reason that I would advise that you do both, though, is especially for those reg keys, the actual information you need, like if you are applying permissions and stuff, they are all here. It's like when you have to create that enable linked connections, guys, it has to be exact. It has to be enable, not enabled. It has to have a capital E. Then no space linked has to have a capital L. Otherwise, that key doesn't work. So it's very important that you do have that specific information. And guys, that specific information is in this document. So instead of a whole bunch of you emailing me and going, hey, Joe, please, can you send this to me? And I myself get overwhelmed by 70 or 80 or over 100 people emailing me for the exact same document that I'm basically going to send you. I'm going to download, send you the document and go, here you go. Guys, you can just go into the KB and you can actually get that. So you can see here are the actual keys themselves. So it is all there for you. We have put it there. But if you also want to watch and see someone doing it, you can watch the video or you can watch the recording of this live event. Then guys, as well, I've put up the top 10 trending topics for October. These are current defects that are here on Sage City. So guys, please join Sage City, because if we find new defects that we are able to recreate, we put them on Sage City so that you are aware of them and you know what's happening. We'll also try to tell you, hey, it's going to be fixed in this specific build. Over and above that, if we look, we can also see that we give certain notifications. So like load shedding errors getting you down. Guys, we have a lot of people are getting load shedding errors, and those errors are pervasive error 94, error code 20, 116, 161, status 2, our internal precision errors, and our status 30 on file 41. And the reason that's happening is we're going through an unprecedented period of load shedding, as we all know. I think that we are all probably completely frustrated. Obviously, the webinar attendance is down because people are being load shedded. They can't see these webinars. But guys, the steps are here. We've got videos on these topics, things that you can check. So we are putting that into Sage City, and I'm trying to update weekly with important things and things that you can remember. It's like, if we go here, I've got our free topic webinars. And guys, what I've done is I have linked these to the YouTube videos that I've managed to create so far. And as I upload those, I will then link them here. So again, instead of you having to go through YouTube and try to find the recordings or go through your emails and try to find it, guys, you can just go into Sage City, open the webinars listing, and literally just click on it, and it will take you to the YouTube video. Then, guys, it's also telling you what's coming up. So obviously, this is going to be removed off the list and will eventually be here once I'm fully caught up. And then, guys, I've already put the 2022 schedule out. Now, as I said, I removed the November, December, so there are 3 left. I've removed them because you can't actually sign up for them. You can currently go click on the link. So if you click on the click here, you can go in and you can start signing up for these for next year. Just remember, you've got to select the date that you want to attend, and then you need to enter your details to register, and you have to register for each one separately. And guys, as soon as I can create November and December's ones, I will do so. Once I can do that, I'm also going to go onto Sage Business Cloud accounting site, and I'm going to put their schedule up. So probably from December, you can start signing up for that, guys. Please do that. To be very honest, and I don't know if there's been a misunderstanding as to what the next webinar is, the one tips and tricks about Pastel accounting. But guys, that one's running on the 24th of November. And to be very honest, I've only had one person show interest. So I'm like, either you guys are like, yeah, you've kind of done a number of these like unknown features, and you're like, what more can you tell us about Pastel? Guys, as I said, it's probably not really going to be anything new unless you missed those. It's going to be kind of a combination of, hey, did you know that you need to basically tick .NET in full, and every time there's a Windows update, you may need to redo this, because .NET is a very important part of making Pastel run correctly, and certain things may not work, like Sage Intelligence. Or this might be why you're getting an error code 20, or something may be ticked again after a Windows update. So it's going to be that kind of info where, guys, remember these things. Remember the renumber codes. For those of you that don't know, we have a General Ledger Manager add-on module, which allows you to change the financial categories and to create or decreate sub-accounts. That might be a really huge thing for people who don't know about that. Just little things that people don't know about as a teaser, guys. So I'm going to go through those things, and there may be, you know, some small thing that you may learn, or you may learn nothing new, but it might be worth attending. And then obviously things to remember when going on leave. And guys, you would think that people know this stuff, and it is logical stuff. But it's that logical stuff that you don't think about until someone goes, hey, you kind of need to do this and remember this. And that's where people are like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. I kind of, you know, yeah, it's I'm going on leave, and I just leave. And I kind of forgot that that may cause error code, that might cause this, that might cause that. And it's just things to remember. So if you're interested in those, please sign up for them, guys. Obviously, it doesn't matter if I have one person or if I have 50 people, I will always run them. The only time I won't run them is if absolutely no one pitches up, in which case I'm like, there's no interest, and then I just end the session after like 15 minutes. But as long as someone's interested and people pitch up, I will always run it, even if it is a private webinar just for you. Then, guys, another thing that I want to bring to people's attention is when 2020 happened and we had COVID, obviously we went to level 5. And as Pastel, we ran something called Q&A Live. And what this was is these were sessions like this, but they were interactive sessions. So it was an all-day session where now and again I would run like little webinars through the day, or I would play videos. But it was basically, in essence, where you could come in and you could go, hey, I have this problem, can you help me? And I would then either give you advice verbally via text, or I would do a demo. So I'd be like, hey, you say you're getting an error code 20. Okay, cool. I'm going to show you what you need to do. Based on the MPS, guys, people have said that our hold times are very long and it's very frustrating for people that they have to hold onto the phones. But guys, Q&A live stopped because no one attended them. And that was something that we were trying to do to make it easier for you. So if that's something that you guys are like, oh, actually, I would love if you did like Q&A live, that's something that we would like to do, because obviously holding on the phone, no one's going to attend to your issue. But in Q&A live, and I specifically ran it, me and Lloyd. Lloyd has since moved to Evolution, but we specifically ran that. And guys, you were speaking to a live person. You could come in and go, hey, I have this question, and I would acknowledge your question immediately. Yes, you may have to wait for a response. I can't, unfortunately, do multiple demos at once. It is a group setting, but everyone could learn from everyone's questions. So I personally thought that it was a great initiative, but unfortunately, as the months went, by the time we got to November, like there were days where no one even entered in. And guys, that is another support channel. You literally didn't have to wait. You could click on a link when you had a question, come in and ask a question. So we want to know, is that something you're interested in? Would you like a Q&A type style webinar, maybe once a week? Or, you know, obviously the numbers need to be there, but we also need that to be driven by you. You need to tell other users about it, and it needs to be something that we do if it's something you're keen on, because it is basically instant support, and it's without you having to sit on a telephone and waste your minutes. It is data, but I think that probably everyone's on unlimited at this point in time. I know I certainly am. And guys, it's data. So if you're prepared to like learn and kind of, even if you need to do other work while I'm demoing to someone, you can wait, and then when you hear your question happen, you can be like, yeah, hey, cool, help me. So please bear that in mind. It's something that we want to look at again, but we need to know if you guys are interested in that. So maybe in that survey, when it asks about topics, maybe just say whether you would like Q&A to come back, questions and answers. But that is what it is, guys. You may come into a session and no one's talking, and honestly, a screen is running with a question feed. That is not what it is. What I'm doing is I'm sitting there waiting for someone to ask me a question and go, hey, Joe, I've got a runtime error 5497. What is that and how do I fix it? That's what I'm waiting for. Or whoever is in that session, running the session, that's what they're waiting for. It doesn't mean no one's there, guys. If you see something similar to this, it just means that no one's asked a question. Now and again, I will, or Nancy will, or whoever's running it will be like, hey guys, we are here. If you've got questions, ask us, because we can see when you're in. But again, we also don't want to call out your name if you're not comfortable with that. So just food for thought. I personally would love to run those sessions again. I thought that it was an awesome initiative, but that's how I felt about it. And it is a way for you guys to get support without having to phone us, because we often get told, I'm wasting my airtime. I'm wasting that very valuable resource just waiting for one person to help me. And then they don't even solve my query. So that's a frustration we're seeing. And guys, if you're on Q&A live, if I give you a solution, you go and try and it doesn't work, you either come back into the session or you leave the session open and you say to me, Joe, that didn't work. Help. I don't know what to do here. Guys, we can then immediately arrange a remote session, or we can arrange, hey, I'm going to get an outbound agent to give you a call then. Like, obviously, I can only demo on Q&A sessions. I can't log into your company or do a remote session live unless you give me permission, because you may be uncomfortable with, you know, 100 people viewing your screen, which I totally get. But in that way, we don't have to deal with the frustration of, hey, I had to phone in 5 times to get an answer. So just food for thought. Are you interested in Q&A live? Is that something that you would like us to start up again? And do you have a better understanding of what Q&A live is? Otherwise, guys, obviously the session is done. I've rambled a little bit, but we want to make support awesome for you. It's like, do you want more of these sessions where we go through topics? Do you want on-the-fly sessions, which is what Q&A would be? You want to know about Sage Intelligence. Instead of me going, guys, this is actually errors, not an overview. You come into a Q&A session and go, hey, Joe, I need to know about Sage Intelligence. Can you give me a rundown? Yeah, sure. And then obviously it's not going to be as smooth as the topic webinars. I can't research on the fly, but we can discuss it. I can give you my knowledge, and based on you going, okay, I have this question, I can be like, hey, let's find out together. Oh yeah, totally does do that. We can totally do this. So guys, bear that in mind. That is kind of where Q&A comes in, and where maybe you would prefer that to specific topic webinars, or you'd like both. So you'd like the topic webinars, but you'd also maybe like Q&A twice a week on like a Tuesday and a Thursday, or you'd like it at a specific time every day for like 2 hours where you know, okay, if I have Pastel issues, I know that from 10 to 12, I can go into Q&A live and ask questions instead of phoning, until we get it to an all day thing again, where we run it from 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 or 9 to whatever the time is, guys. So please let me know if that's something you're interested in. I'm going to see if I can do a poll on Sage City. And again, if you know other users who use Pastel, or if you're a BP, please tell your users to go onto Sage City then, and maybe just tell us, yes, I want Q&A live, so that we know it's going to be utilized, guys. It was quite heart-wrenching when no one came in on days, and then unfortunately it's a failed resource. So let me know. Otherwise we can look at other solutions. But yeah, guys, thanks Nancy so much for all the info. Guys, I hope you found this session informative. And that is it. I don't see any other questions coming through. I've rambled for quite a while, so I'm going to end that here today. I hope you all have a fantastic week. As always, a wonderful weekend. And guys, if you're interested in the tips and tricks, and maybe you missed a couple of the previous sessions, please sign up for it. That's running on the 24th. Otherwise, as always, have a fantastic day, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Ciao, ciao.